My name is Justin Brown, founder and lead investigator of Interface Death, and in this video I'll be talking to you about electronic voice phenomena and the physics that may be behind the phenomena. And what this basically is a hypothesis of mine concerning EVP, and I will be going over my refined ideas based off of prior videos and demonstrations I have done. And hopefully this will be more in-depth and more comprehensible video explaining and demonstrating EVPs and the physics behind it. The first thing I want to talk about is electromagnetic induction. It's the first physics concept that I introduced to explain EVP. And what it involves is coils. Anything that has a coil in it when it comes to recorders, as far as a dynamic mic or a speaker, electromagnetic energy can manipulate a coil, which it induces the flow of electrons in the coil to modulate or cause variance in the input signal of a recorder, or the output signal in a speaker in that instance. Pretty much what we're dealing with is just a field. It bypasses the diaphragm in the microphone or the cone in the speaker, and it just pretty much induces the electron flow or modulates the signal in a way to create or simulate the voice. There's another augmentation to this hypothesis I want to introduce to you. I've been using an RVPR, which is a round-tree voice phenomena recorder. And pretty much, if you haven't seen that video, I'll give the links in this video in the description. But what it does is it uses a Tascam DR40 with two stereo condenser mics, and it uses two exterior dynamic mics. And what I use it for is to try to pinpoint what type of phenomena is occurring. Is it electromagnetic induction, or is it something else? Now, the theory behind the RVPR is, if the electromagnetic induction holds true, then it will only affect the dynamic mics and not the condenser mics, because the condenser mics are not susceptible to EMF interference. But with that being said, many people get EVP from condenser mics, which are the most popular and general microphone that are found in digital recorders. So I want to explain how condenser mics work, and I want to explain how it's possible that some type of entity can manipulate it, and whether the physics behind that. And I want to introduce the condenser mic, how it works. It pretty much uses a transducer just like the dynamics do, but instead of a coil, it uses a plate, two plates. One plate is a very thin diaphragm, but it's conductive, and it's housed over top of another plate, which has voltage hooked up to it. And any type of acoustic or mechanical energy is applied to the diaphragm. It changes the capacitance in the other plate, which is the voltage being very modulated, so the signal is modulated, so it produces the signal that way, the audio signal that way. And this is interesting, because if we can get electronic voice phenomena just to happen on a condenser mic, then we have some other type of mechanic going on. And I want to introduce something that I've talked about in another video, where manifestations, paranormal phenomena, can manifest in a way that I'd like to call charged particles. Now, when you're talking about capacitance and a condenser mic transducer, we're talking about charge. Okay, so if there is charged particles that are being harnessed in an electromagnetic field, and that is what a spirit is comprised of, a field with charged particles, then the charge from the particles can interact with the charge in the capacitor and the transducer and the condenser mic, and cause variance and the voltage that way. Okay, it can interact, with a positive or negative charge in the transducer. So that is another way to explain it. Now, that is the hypothesis we're working on. So what can we do to test it, and how can we figure out if it's true or not? Well, you pretty much need an oscilloscope, and that's where the money comes in, and that's where the conundrum for most paranormal investigators like me and many others that just don't have the money to go out and buy an oscilloscope, because they can run high. I mean, you can get a cheap one. They can, like old out-of-date ones, they can run around, if you're lucky, $275, $500, but they can go all the way up to $50,000. But if you can find a cheap one, it may work. And pretty much what oscilloscopes do is it allows you to analyze an electrical signal, AC or DC. In this case, we're talking about AC. And what we're going to do is analyze the signal to see, at what voltage the anomalous or modulated input signal is, or output, depending on what type of research you're doing with a speaker. And we're going to see at what frequency and what amplitude, and it'll break down, in a time frame in the X and Y axis graph what's going on, so you can more closely analyze the signal. Now, in order to do this scientifically, of course, you're going to have to control the environment, because anything that you have coming through the microphones is going to make the oscilloscope read it. So if you are unable to control the noise contamination in the environment, you might as well not even do the experiment. But if you're doing all those things correctly, you're going to be able to narrow down something anomalous and analyze it. Now, this is going to be painstaking, because you're going to go out there for literally hours and maybe even years and get absolutely nothing. You're going to be able to debunk and weed out all these things that could potentially be EVP and end up not being EVP. And it's worse than fishing. You have better luck winning the lottery or getting struck by lightning at the same time than you do capturing a legit EVP. Now, those factors can, or those odds can be higher if you put yourself in a situation where there's more phenomena. Now, when you go out in the field, you pretty much want to choose your locations wisely. You want to have a very good intuition about where this type of phenomena will occur. Now, that is subjected to your ability to decide what is and what's not paranormal, what is available to you in your area. Some people are able to go further distances to widen the range of good field possibilities, but most people aren't. So if you actually do find a spot or a place where paranormal phenomena occurs, you want to revisit that area as much as possible to do this research and keep on at it until you go. But all those things combined together is going to help you push forward. Another thing I want you guys to consider, and I mentioned before in my previous videos, is that a legit EVP is only considered to be on one audio source. Now, if you're trying to do EVP research, I want you to be using multiple recorders, at least 2 if not more. Now, with the RVPR, there's 4 tracks. So, but of course you should be using your microphones that you mic yourself with, other recorders, the audio recorders on your cameras when you're video recording everything. All those sources of data are potential EVP validators. And what you want to try to prove in the EVP research that you're doing is that the EVP only comes across one of the audio sources, okay, and not all of them. If they're coming across all of it, it's most likely not EVP. Now, if it is anomalous and paranormal in nature, if you ruled everything out and you have a lot of control of your experiment and your environment, then it could be an AVP or DVP. But you really want to try your hardest to only find it on one track, on one audio source, so you can validate the EVP. Now, that is one of the most important things that you're going to want to do. Okay, so the RVPR and most all of the hypothesis that you're hearing is stating that the proximity of the EMF field and the charged particles, if those are also present, is what is causing the phenomena. Okay, the area in which the EMF field or the particles are affecting the environment can vary. Now, the more powerful it is, the more bigger the field, but we're talking about what could be potentially very small, fields and patches of particles. So that may explain why EVP is very rare. But keep those things. Now, a couple other things before I move on. I want to talk about the difference between electronic voice phenomena and disembodied voice phenomena, or audible voice phenomena. Okay? When you hear things with your ears, there's two possibilities. One, somehow, if this is in fact paranormal in origin, it's affecting the environment in a way that's allowing you to hear it acoustically or environmentally. The other way is something called a auditory microwave effect, and I'll let you know what that is. Pretty much during the war, when they were first developing sonar technology, sonar operators were reporting that they were hearing the ticks from the sonar when they would get really close to the sonar, and they would actually hear it. Well, you're not supposed to hear it, but they were reporting it. And once they did some research on it, they found out that your ear works essentially like a microphone. You have this mechanism, inner ear mechanism, that transfers acoustic input into electrical input that your brain interprets. Now, the cochlea, which is what it uses, your inner ear uses to transfer this, is being affected by the electromagnetics of sonar or any type of EMF, and the EMF is causing the contraction and the expansion of the cochlea and the tissues in there, and it's creating a signal that your ear can pick up. Now, that may be a possible origin of audible or disembodied voices, but probably not all. There's a lot of times where the voices are not just localized just to you. There's many people that hear it. People hear disembodied screams that a whole group of people hear that echo off walls. They have characteristics where it's actually, you hear it in the environment. And echo is a big thing, a characteristic that kind of rules out the auditory microwave effect. So you want to consider all those types of mechanics and ideas when you're trying to figure out what's going on. But I thought I would mention it because it's an interesting idea when it comes to what is actually happening and what could be occurring with you individually. Okay, but I want people to really push the science behind what could be happening with the paranormal, phenomena known as EVP. I want to do a video that involves the ITC aspects and spirit box aspects of this, but in another video I want to go into it. But in this video, I really want to just explain to you what my refined ideas about EVP are, and what you could be doing to improve your research using my ideas, and which aren't all my ideas, but I want to, introduce how condenser mics can be affected if the phenomena is in fact an EMF, and charged particles combined. Now, in the other video I mentioned that you can test that, and if that is in fact so, then that would explain why it can cause a modulation in the capacitance of the condenser mic. So, with all that being said, I will like to end this video, and if you have any questions for me concerning these ideas, please hit me up in the comments, email me, message me, inbox me, do anything you can. I am highly available to answer your questions and to trade ideas. I'd like to thank you for paying attention to this research that I'm doing, and hopefully that you would be interested in implement it in your own research. And I will see you on the next.